very happy to have our guest speakers to come on stage for the Fireside Chat. Mr. Eric Stryson, Managing Director, Global Institute for Tomorrow Gift. Mr. Drew Robbins, Principal AI Architect, Office of the CTO, Microsoft Asia. If you're ready, I'll give you to take over the stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome everyone, and we're very pleased to be here. I've been told that this is a fireside chat. Drew, I don't see any fire here, man. Do you?
We got to start one. Yeah. We are the fire.
Yeah, so we're going to light up the room. I think it's too hot for a fire. I'd rather call this like the ice bucket chat. Can we get an ice bucket? Is maybe more appropriate for today?
I didn't know this was a comedy.
Okay. Okay, so I think the topic of the session is the next wave of growth. So my name is Eric Stryson. I'm the Managing Director of the Global Institute for Tomorrow. And this is Drew Robbins. Drew, maybe do you want to introduce yourself quickly and provide a little opening remarks, and then we'll set the context.
Yeah, sure. So welcome, everyone, and thanks for being here. I'm looking forward to this discussion. My name is Drew Robbins, and I am a Principal AI Architect for the Office of the CTO for Microsoft Asia. And really what that means is I get to sit with technical leaders and their engineering teams all across Asia and really figure out how AI can be used in their organization. And it's fun because we get to cut through the hype a little bit and really figure out where AI can actually be of use. And of course, a lot of those organizations have spent a lot of time deploying tools to their the members of their organization to increase productivity. But what's really exciting now and for the next several years is how they're taking that new space created with the productivity gains and using that new space to find transformation in their business, new products and new markets. And those are really exciting projects that I look forward to talking through today. I mean, really, the productivity gains are kind of paying for AI, but really matters will be these business transformations that happen.
Great, thank you. So, you know, I am not a principal architect. I dabble in AI as a practitioner, but I think the purpose here is to try to give you a viewpoint on the growth of AI in the Asia region, for which I'm going to ask Drew some questions and then try to supplement this. But I think, you know, our institute works all across the region. We work with large global MNCs, regional companies, governments, and looking at new business opportunities in relation to how the region is changing and actually what some of the constraints that it is facing related to urbanization, development, food, healthcare, housing, etc. And trying to understand that these pressures and these constraints also present new business opportunities. So I think one area that we can also look at is how technology and AI can be an enabler or a facilitator in some of these areas in ways that maybe previously would be very difficult to capture. And then we're going to broaden out the whole question of AI readiness and how companies are moving from kind of tinkering with, you know, productivity and efficiency gains. You all know, like, help me write this email, help me summarize this 500-page PDF and stuff like that. And we're going to get Drew's insight into where actually business growth comes from by deploying AI in more advanced cases and more as a profit and a revenue and profit driver rather than just little productivity gains. And then I think we're going to conclude with understanding the success factors within organization. And this is something that my institute has done a lot in terms of organizational culture and leadership, and how to actually set a context and develop a mindset within people for transformation and change. And I think you all pretty well understand that it's not a technology constraint now as much as it is a culture and a people constraint that would be holding the deployment and the success back. So we're going to talk about that as well. Yeah. So Drew, if I can just start, I think people want to know, where is the next wave of growth if we talk about AI within industry. So maybe you could give us some of your experience either in specific industries you're working with or where you see the most exciting gains from AI deployments.
Yeah, for me, a large point of view for me is in of course, Asia Pacific. And in our particular region of the world, finance tends to be a very big area, and actually probably the industry that's most advanced. And I think part of that tends to be because of all of the different digital businesses in finance now. I mean, when I walk into a convenience store and you see 50 different ways to pay for your product, that's because of all the digital backends and investment that's been made in finance. And so that paves the way really for agentic AI solutions to operate within. If everything's on paper, if everything's offline, if it's not connected, that obviously makes using AI a bigger challenge. And then that brings you kind of like the opposite, which I think is around manufacturing, where a lot of manufacturing has been offline. And so the growth there really ends up being more about getting things digitized, getting things connected. Manufacturing tends to have data silos all over the place, and it's a great opportunity for AI to come in and have agents go out and infiltrate those silos and give you insights. And so that's another big area. And then I think the third area is really around healthcare, because healthcare systems in Asia are varying across different regions. And then also, of course, we've got a population that's aging, and there's a lot of opportunity for healthcare. It's another big area of growth that we see.
So I was curious on your view, Drew, because I thought the opening session was very interesting to me around the security imperative. And I think we all have some anxiety, maybe if I can say, if not outright fear, about security concerns. And I think the commissioner gave us a very clear outline this morning about why we should all feel safe in Hong Kong. And of course, I do. But we know that there's been high-profile deep fake scams and a whole range of new threat vectors. Is security also a growth area when it comes to AI?
I think it is. I think there's two different stances that people take towards AI and security and the threat, right? One is there's a stance of like, I'm very cautious because of what could possibly happen if AI has an error or goes wrong. And so they tend to hold back a little bit. And then there's, I think, another set of customers that are so excited about the possibility, they look past the threat, and that's equally as kind of dangerous or bad. And so this conversation around what to do with AI when it goes the wrong direction is probably the most important conversation I have with customers, and the hardest too, because many times, even without AI, many times in their business they don't quite understand the threat models and the vulnerabilities they have, and so you add AI into the picture, and that can actually make things worse. And so understanding that posture that you're in order to really take advantage of AI is super important, and so a place where products as well as services can be a growth area.
If I'm a customer of a banking service and I'm very familiar with talking to a representative, somebody on the phone, maybe at a BPO service center somewhere, but it's a real person, and then suddenly I begin talking to agents, and agents are doing my banking, why should I have more peace of mind than maybe I do?
That's a really good question.
I mean, because this is where the rubber hits the road, as they say, right? If agents are going to be deployed in banking, in healthcare, and I've got, an intelligent agent from an LLM giving me advices and whatnot, why should I have a peace of mind around that?
Yeah. Well, I think we all have been on the digital call in the past decade where you wanted to hit zero and get to the human, right?
I still press zero on the phone.
Zero constantly. Good.
I don't think that works anymore.
Yeah, good. But I think there's two sides to it. Like, there's the consumer side. Like, do I feel comfortable talking to an agentic solution to get the information? And I think there's two things. One is Safety, of course, like am I getting the right information? Am I getting the right result from the tool? But also there's a time sense to it as well, right? Like, if I'm getting faster responses because I'm not on hold for 2 hours, that's actually a very good incentive for the consumer side. On the corporate side, of course, on the provider side, we want to make sure that this is safe for both our customers as well as for the corporation as well. And we tend to spend a lot of time in that space putting guardrails in place, right? Making sure that we understand the paths that AI can take. We understand where it can make errors, and we build in the mitigations to make sure that those errors don't impact our customers.
Okay. Given that this is also about growth and AI, I also just want to supplement what Drew said. And in our experience, there are many industries and sectors around the Asia Pacific which are often overlooked or not prioritized when we think about digital and AI technology, but mark my words, will be essential growth areas for the future because they are essential to life and society. Foremost of those, I believe now, is food security and agricultural applications of smart technology, both the hardware but also in AI software. I don't know if you've done any food-related projects or...
I have not.
Maybe not. But, we've been out working with farmers who can't get the information, don't know the best practices, how much fertilizers, et cetera. So, an intelligent agent advising farmers in an easy way. Another one, of course, is disaster preparedness, climate change, extreme weather, how governments deploy monitoring to understand, forest cover, forest fires, floods, et cetera, and disaster preparedness. And, of course, healthcare access, looking at how to provide, reliable, useful advice to citizens who cannot either afford or are not in proximity to clinics and hospitals. These are areas. But they don't make the headlines always because we like talking about fintech and manufacturing revolutions.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like a lot of times the most... The most positive outcomes from AI are the ones that are not always the flashiest, but those are great areas because they're all very dense in terms of data and being able, and they need the ability to do pattern matching across disparate pieces of data, right? Between fertilizers to weather to, crop production, et cetera. And certainly there's very smart people that can do that. But at scale, getting AI to look for those patterns is especially like disaster recovery as well. Looking and connecting the dots across multiple data points is something that AI can be very good at.
And then last thing I will say is also just the distribution challenge and the costs of getting that information to individual people who are across a disparate area is also something that digital technologies are very suited for.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point there too. And I just in talking to you the past week or so, it's interesting your exposure to different markets where they have different levels of access to some of these tools. And how do you see different markets getting ahead and other markets falling behind, or how do you make sure that everyone has kind of good, balanced access to the technology?
I think there's no substitute. We have to remember infrastructure is the biggest bottleneck. In Hong Kong, we forget because we kind of live in a Disneyland where everything is seamless and works and is reliable. Singapore is the same, Tokyo, other regional capitals. But when you get to Indonesia, India, other places, this is not the case. I did a project last year in West Papua, Indonesia. If anyone's been to Bali, it's another 3 to 4 hour flight east to Papua. And, we wanted to do digital health, telehealth solutions, but no internet access. So basic infrastructure was the constraint. I think the other constraint is a mindset. And I want to shift gears and talk to you now, Drew, about the mindset within companies and how we think about AI readiness in order to capture some of these opportunities. You made a point to me that we're somehow transitioning now from pilots around productivity and efficiency into more revenue-generating business opportunities. Maybe you can kick us off with that.
Yeah, I think the productivity cases are super important. So getting the tools out there, getting them into the hands of your organization, and helping people get ready to use them in both the right ways as well as to know when not to use the tools I think is really important to preparing the organization. But once you have now the ability to take what used to take several hours for one task, and now you're getting 5 tasks done in a few minutes, you have to ask yourself, well, what do you do? Do you spread yourself thin as an organization, everyone just kind of doing busy work the whole time, summarizing emails, etc., or do you create the space for them to go deeper and begin to solve problems?
You mentioned to me the key success factors, if I can paraphrase, around judgment, trust, and context. Can you talk a little bit about why these are so important if a business leader and their team is to get some substantial gains from AI?
Yeah, well, when you think about it, like, ideally everyone's getting access to these tools, and it's really raising the baseline of what can be accomplished. And so then what differentiates my organization from a competitor's organization, or what is the value that I can bring to the industry that's above what AI can already provide? And it's actually the things that you just mentioned, which is my ability to have empathy for my customers, the ability to add judgment, the ability to feel fear and guilt actually is really important as a human, both for making decisions and discerning. Like, AI doesn't care, right? AI doesn't care if it made a mistake. AI doesn't care.
It doesn't feel guilty?
It doesn't feel guilty as far as
it's not sorry?
Tell. Sometimes it tells me it does, but I'm pretty sure it's lying.
But Claude lies to me all the time when it says it understands.
Right? It's like, I understand your feelings. No, you don't. Like, do you get a restaurant recommendation sometimes that says, this one tastes really good, or like the food's... How do you know, Claude? And so anyway, those are our human capabilities that we add to AI in order to really raise the ceiling of what's possible. So if the floor is raised by AI, what's actually possible in the marketplace is because of what we add to the equation. And we have to figure out, as leaders, as technical leaders, how do we enable our organization to go find those opportunities and raise the ceiling instead of getting bogged down in doing 1,000 tasks a day, right?
So I'm really curious, Drew, and I don't know, if the audience has any feedback on this. We will open up for questions in 5-10 minutes. In terms of judgment, my experience working with clients and in many candid conversations is that there is a real challenge, particularly with younger professionals, and I'm not being ageist here, but younger professionals who have less relative domain experience in their fields, about exercising judgment around what the AI produces. And I'm being agnostic here. It's not about Copilot versus Claude versus GPT, okay? But I think the lost time and productivity in reading through AI slop is potentially reversing a lot of the efficiency gains. I certainly say that as a manager myself. So what's the trick around exercising judgment, Drew? Or is that an impossible question?
I think it'll be a continuous question. How's that? Because I think it's a journey that we're on. If you look at my space in particular, where we're using AI to generate code, a couple years ago when we first started down this path, I would have an agent generate some code and I would read every single line because I needed to check every single line. Over time, we're starting to get to the point now, instead of just having AI be this assistant that generates things, we're giving it more tasks that are a little bit more autonomous. And I'm probably, because of some of those things, the judgment and my experience, I'm able to go and check on the things that I know are critical, but then I allow the AI to produce some of the things that are more repeatable and less prone to error. So those are things that you learn over time. And if you take that journey of engineering to other processes as well, the same thing happens. And so usually organizations will start with a very human in the loop outcome where humans are checking every output of AI. But what happens as you start to progress is you start to figure out where is it that we need to apply judgment, where is it that we need to review the outputs, and where is it that we can allow AI to be a little bit more autonomous. And that's where we come to this path now where we're more human-led and agent-assisted versus before where we very much just checked everything.
So are you comfortable writing code or let's say supervising code, having the AI write it and not checking line by line now?
I am.
Is that a pointed question?
It's a pointed question, but I am. I have enough discernment in the output and the ability to write the right tests to know that the outcome is sound, as well as we still use a lot of static tools. We still use a lot of deterministic process in there along with the AI in order to judge the output.
Let me ask you this. Are the customers that you work with comfortable doing that? And if not, how are you working with them to help them understand, best practices, guardrails, and where and when they need to insert themselves?
It very much depends on the customer. Are they in a regulated industry? How conservative are they around AI? It's a journey that everybody has to go on, right? Like when I'm writing code that I'm allowing the agent to create some of that, it's in a space where I feel comfortable doing that. If I'm writing code with a customer that's more conservative, of course we're going to be checking that output much more closely. But using practices around guardrails and testing, again, we're using age-old tools around analysis of that code. We don't necessarily have to read every single line.
Yeah, and obviously I asked this question because there's been a sort of trend of high-profile scandals, if I can call it that, particularly with the high-profile consultants who have AI hallucinations, if we can call it that, into the reports that they're producing for both private and public sector clients. And it's also, of course, exposing the traditional consulting model with an hourly fee-based service. But, how do you, what is your recommendation for building the sort of sensibility for how customers need to deal with these volumes of material being produced?
Yeah, I think the hardest conversation I have with customers is always, how are you going to deal with the error? If a bad line of code slips through, how do you deal with that? And many times customers don't even know yet how they deal with an error in their human process. Right. Like are you able to detect that an error happened? Are you able to find out what the impact was? And are you able to do the root cause analysis in your human process first? If you can't do that, then it's very hard to apply AI in a safe way.
Yeah.
If you do have that process in place, then you can put AI, you can build in the mitigations for when it has an error, and you can do the root cause analysis to prevent repeating those errors.
So is it your view then, and I mean this is something I have a view on, but I'd like to hear yours first, that to the extent that companies are effective at managing and establishing the culture and managing change and transformation in a sort of offline environment or an analog environment maps to how effective they will be at adopting and transforming with AI. So in a way, it's not an issue of technology, it's an issue of people and management.
It's an issue of people, and do you have governance already in your organization, strong governance for these types of situations? If you don't, then it's very hard to apply that governance to an AI solution.
What are the additional governance considerations that we need to pay attention to with AI as we look at growing and capturing new opportunities? Of course, data, privacy, security would seem to be the leading ones, but from your perspective, what are the key governance concerns?
Well, I think a very unique one in APAC is obviously sovereignty. We don't have the luxury of Europe, where there's a European Union with a common set of regulations. And so that's a big one. Where is my data? Do I have control over my data? And can I pull it back when I need to? Same thing with the AI workload then. Where is the agent running? Do I have control over the agent and what it has access to? And can I pull the agent back when I feel like something's not going right? So those are the big areas around governance is, again, being able to kind of detect what the agent's doing. If an error is occurring, do I have control to fix that, to detect it, to fix it, prevent it from happening again in the future? Those are the big governance areas.
Okay, last point of question, and then I'd like to open the floor. I think we have 10 minutes left. So if you have questions, please, be outspoken, challenge. Talking about human strengths and human capabilities in an era of AI, which, you work with a broad range of customers. I'd like to understand from your perspective, what are the key differentiators from a human factor point of view that we need to be thinking about? And I have long argued, and I've written about this, that the biggest danger of AI is not that the machines will take over, but that human beings, we will become more and more operating like machines. And we therefore lose the human qualities for what makes us human. And so I think, my view is we have to resist that. And there are certain key traits and qualities that we should be investing in. But before we go into those, Drew, what's your view on human factor differentiators for companies to succeed?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is that space that AI is going to create for the people in your company. And what do you do with that space?
You mean we're going to have extra time to just chill out?
That's my hope, is just chill out, go fishing more often.
You're already pretty chilled out.
Yeah.
AI is doing all your work for
you. Right. But the danger is, and I do this all the time, is I sit down in my stool seat, and you can imagine I have 5, 10, 15 agents in front of me, and I'm just going between
Do you have 15 agents going at the same time?
Usually, yeah. But then the question becomes, how do I context switch between that? And am I really going in depth on the problems that I need to go to? Or am I just staying at the surface across these 15 agents, right? And so I think what we'll find is that the people who can constrain their time and energy into the right activities are going to be the ones that do the best in this kind of AI world. It's kind of like we talked about, when social media came, right? Social media had all these promises about connecting people, but in the end, what it's really done is caused a lot of disconnection, pulled people apart, pulled them into their devices instead of connecting as humans. And I think, in a sense, AI has the same kind of huge potential for the things that we can accomplish if we use it in the right way. But there's a danger that we'll use it in the...
So what would be the analogous kind of dark direction like social media? If social media was meant to bring people together around shared interests, but it polarized us in ways, what's the correlation with AI and the danger?
Well, I think if we offload our intellect to AI,
right.
To be honest, I think AI has this capability to go and do things that help us improve our intellect. I use AI all the time to go do deep research, to find different details that maybe I wouldn't capture through just a regular Bing search or Google search. But
I do some Bing searches too.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, but I use AI to do that, right? But I have to then continue to use my brain to do the intellect, the discernment, the judgment, the problem solving. And if we offload too much of that, I think that's where we start to end up kind of averaging out all the outcomes.
Yeah, I agree. One of my favorite use cases is kind of intellectual antagonist, where you actually get into a challenging, almost confrontational relation. So I argue with Claude all the time. If I'm asking Claude for something related to geopolitics, I'm like, come on, man. Don't go down that mainstream media rabbit hole. Give me something a bit more balanced.
Who wins these arguments?
Well, I can always just, click the browser off.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I think, the beware of cognitive offloading, outsourcing your critical thinking we are always working with our clients on how, strengthening broad awareness, critical and conceptual thinking, retaining the ability to communicate with other humans, sit with somebody in person and have a candid, open, honest, even difficult conversation. I think if we rely too much on the machines and on AI, those skills can atrophy, and that is not a good thing for the future of our organizations.
Yeah, and hopefully as technical leaders in your organizations, you're thinking about these things and how to build the culture within your organization that prevents that, right?
Yeah. Okay, we have about 5 minutes. Any questions from the audience? Oh, I see one in the front and then there. Walter, please.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you very much. Great conversation. Walter Jennings here with Asia Inside Circle. I'm interested in the cultural backlash against AI, particularly in the West, and the boos at commencement speeches just this month and last. And yet across, right over in China, we're seeing a different style of acceptance and integration. Yeah. How are we going to help our employees embrace the positives of AI, even if it leads to restructurings, job losses, and the other concerns?
I think it's reminding them where their human agency remains. And often even within Microsoft, I have conversations with other engineers that are afraid that their jobs are being replaced. We've seen the layoffs, and much of that has been what is causing the boos is this negative impact that we foresee on society, on employment, on all of these things. But when I talk to these people and I ask them, well, what do you bring to Microsoft? Why were you hired at Microsoft, right? It's never
What can you do that Copilot can't do?
Right. No, that's exactly the question. But it's a deeper question, which is thinking about what is the value that you bring. And almost always that value is my ability to connect with my peers, to solve problems, to get consensus, to have empathy for our customers. None of those things, at least in this decade, are replaceable by AI.
I would just add to that, I totally agree. The political, economic atmosphere and context is very different in the US and China. Of course, it's different again in Europe. And I think a lot of the negative reaction to AI is also a response to the anxiety that individuals feel within a system which is kind of, very market-led. There's a consolidation of financial power, and people feel unprotected by the governance structure and the regulatory environment. That's my view, which of course is very different in China. That's sort of the external rather than the internal. Good. I think there's a question there in the back. We have just, I think, 2 or 3 more minutes, and then we must wrap up.
Thank you. I'm actually from Microsoft Redmond, so good to see you here.
Oh, a hard question, please.
Yeah, so actually following up on the previous question, I'm curious about how you see the development of the talent pipeline, either within Microsoft or obviously the industries you work with, because there is definitely a sense that currently in the educational system, the outputs are rewarded, and a lot of people can kind of skip the learning process to get to high quality outputs. So it makes, the talent that we or that I'm doing as an interviewer, I often see the quality appears to have gone down in many cases. So I'm curious, how do you see companies develop their talent pipeline in their hiring processes to kind of deal with this trend?
Yeah, we've been debating this a lot within our part of the organization, but how do you make sure that junior developers or early career developers are still building the skills necessary to do what I described earlier, which is to discern where you need to double check the AI's output, to be able to do the systems thinking and the problem solving. So in some cases, I think from an interview perspective, it's still the same, which is let's not talk about how to write a sorting algorithm in code. Let's talk about how to think through a problem, and are we asking the right questions? And are we looking at the most important outcomes that we should go and measure from that process? The difficult part is once you found that person, then what kind of experiences are they getting early on in their career when everything is being outsourced to AI? And I think that's a big challenge that we have to think about. It's kind of like do you teach math with or without the calculator? And that's kind of a moment we're in now. Is there is value in getting early career developers that really understand the AI tools and how to use them. But there's also this value in how do I double check the outputs and how do I make sure that there's a baseline set of technical skills as well. And I don't think we necessarily have a great answer for that yet, but it's something that you have to plan for and think about in the culture of your organization of like how can we do that within our context. Sorry, I don't have a direct answer for the second part, but I think the first part is you're still hiring for the problem solving, the systems thinking, the ability to ask the right questions and look for the right outcomes.
Yeah, we must wrap up. I just want to add one quick thing because we've talked about this. I've written about this and talked to our clients. And I think from an educational point of view and an early career development point of view, there's a great danger that particularly young people, but I speak as someone who grew up without a mobile phone, so just to kind of date myself, there is a danger of forgetting the value of what I call the productive struggle in learning. And that is actually enjoying the difficulty of working through a problem rather than outsourcing it to something that can do it quickly. And in the absence of enjoying the struggle, we end up with individuals who feel everything should be frictionless, everything should be easy, and they lack problem solving and in many ways just common sense for how to get things done. And I see this as a great danger within the professional world, particularly within younger employees, whether they're coding or they're consulting or banking or doing other things.
Good.
I've been told the time is up.
Okay.
Thank you, Drew.
Yes, well, thank you, everyone, for attending, and appreciate seeing a meeting with you later and seeing the things that you're creating with AI.
We didn't get a chance to talk about Microsoft's latest releases, but I assume they can find those announcements online. You got new LLM models, new hardware, all kinds of stuff.
We've got all kinds of things. I wasn't here to pitch Microsoft, but
yeah,
I can certainly talk about it.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you very much.
A big thank you to our brilliant speakers, Eric and Drew. Please stand for a photo together on stage. Thank you.